It started in a cave on Halloween. Just me and my friend Anna. Me and Anna are the total opposite. She's blonde, outgoing, and completely fearless. I'm dark-haired, introverted, and a people-pleaser. That's actually how I ended up at this cave. People-pleasing. Anyways, we go through the cave and it was pretty awesome. The usual people with chainsaws, screamers, clowns. One clown in particular kept following us. He wasn't like the other clowns who wore face paint with fake blood splattered on them. He didn't have a big red nose and clown clothes. He had on regular, if not tattered jeans, a stained sweaty white tee, and a clown mask. The mask was pretty detailed. It had the eyes cut out, and a wicked, jagged-toothed mouth with blood smeared around it. It was seriously creepy. He follows us all the way through the house as we giggle and run into the fog room at the end. Once we make it outside, we go to get cocoa and watch the local bands play. While in line, the clown walks up and stands inches away from me, breathing in and out so hard his mask sticks to his face and releases with each breath. Okay, creepy, but pretty normal for this place. He walks away for a moment, and we giggle, but he just stays close, staring. We walk over to the band, and he stands right behind me. He starts tugging on my hair. I try to ignore it, but he just keeps tugging harder and harder. Suddenly, he pulls so hard, my head whips back. Anna starts yelling at him, and he lets go and walks away, but not far like before. She wanted to tell someone, but I didn't want to tell anybody. We're at a haunted cave, and he probably didn't mean to. But she said no, and that they couldn't touch you, and we walked over to the ticket booth to complain. It went a little something like this. "Ma'am, your clown over there pulled my friend's hair so hard it almost ripped out." "I don't see any of our clowns. They're all in the cave. None of our people walk around out here unless they're behind that rope, because some families with small kids come for the hayride and bands." "But that clown right there did it. How do you not see him?" "Calm down, miss. That's not one of our clowns. Are you sure he isn't a friend of yours?" I just responded with a thank you and told her that we were sorry. I just wanted to leave at this point. The clown is still staring, and I'm missing hair now, so this isn't very fun anymore. Fearless Anna decides to confront the clown. She marches right up with me behind her and demands he takes off his mask. He doesn't speak. He just looks at me. He reaches out his hand to me, and I refused to touch him. He pushed Anna from in front of me and stepped 2 inches from my face and screamed the most terrifyingly psychotic scream I've ever heard. Everyone turned to look. The band even stopped playing. Anna grabbed me by the arm and pulled. His stare had me frozen. Then, Anna grabbed my face and slapped me, and we started running. I looked behind, and he was still standing and staring. Everyone just went back to what they were doing like it was nothing. We got into our car and peeled out. Anna just kept yelling that we needed to call the police. I told her that it wasn't that big of a deal, and that it was just a weirdo at a haunted cave, and that I had no hard feelings for the slap because I was too scared to move. Then, she said something that made my blood run cold. He had a knife. That's why she slapped me and pulled me away. Not from the fear of being screamed at. She saw the knife in his hand. We contacted the police, but they didn't take us seriously. I'm now afraid to go to haunted attractions, not because they're too scary, but because you never really know if someone works there or if they're just there because they fit in so well. After spending the better part of my weekend reading the stories in this fantastic subreddit, I felt obliged to share a story of my own. This isn't my story, but it happened to my friend in the summer of 2010. My friend, who we'll call Emily, was running in a park about a mile from her house. Now, during the day, this park is the safest place in the world. Located next to a fairly busy street with houses surrounding it and a tennis court and baseball field, this park was always filled with people. Since Emily had work that day, she decided to run around dusk when the park was fairly empty. Although this park is literally located in a neighborhood, it can be downright creepy around this time, and cops can usually be seen patrolling the area looking for drug dealers or horny teens. The trail she was running on is kind of hidden in the surrounding patch of forest and dips behind this little hill to where the baseball field is located. As she was approaching the baseball field, she noticed a man sitting on the bench. Figuring it was just someone taking a break from a walk or something, she didn't really think much of it. But as she approached him, things began to get weird. This guy was sitting there, wearing a clown mask. She said it looked like the character Pennywise from It. This obviously struck her as creepy, so she sped up from a jog to a run. A quick look over her shoulder, and she saw the guy had stood up and was starting to run after her. This obviously freaked the fuck out of Emily, so she just dead-on sprinted back to her house. As Emily approached her house, her other friend Stacy had just pulled into the driveway. Emily screamed at Stacy to run into the house and call the cops. By this time, though, the clown creeper had lost interest and was nowhere to be seen. The cops came, looked for the guy, and a report was filed, but nothing really ever came of it. Emily was obviously scared out of her mind and refused to walk alone at night, and flat out avoided that park for a couple of years. Now, among our friends, we had kind of a general consensus on who it was that had chased Emily. We all figured it was this kid we knew from high school, who lived less than a block away from the park. We'll call him Jim. Now, Jim was always kind of strange, and was really into Insane Clown Posse. He was just a generally creepy, albeit harmless individual. He could have been just reflecting upon the vast, majestic, sonically sexual music that is ICP, and wearing that mask was his getaway. But most likely, his intentions were a little more sinister. On a side note, a couple of weeks later, I was driving home from a friend's house. The way I take home passes Jim's house. There's also a stop sign that causes you to literally stop in front of his house. The windows were down because it was a hot night, and I slowly creeped to a stop at the stop sign. As I stopped, I looked out the passenger side window towards Jim's house. And lo and behold, sitting no further than 5 feet from my car, is Jim. Looking fucked up. I mean, really strung out hard on something. He looked up to me with this hazy, lost look on his face, and his mouth broke into this really strange grin. Needless to say, I hauled ass home, and didn't sleep too well that night. I haven't seen or heard much about Jim since then, although I'm pretty sure he still lives in that same house. Okay, so I've posted on this sub before, and I was thinking about creepy encounters I'd had, and it struck me that this one probably qualifies as kind of creepy. Hopefully I'm right. This happened about a year ago now, I'm a college student and was basically forced to move out on my own, which I wouldn't mind, but that meant finding a new roommate, which can be a daunting and scary experience. I've had a few weird encounters, but I think that this one takes the cake. I posted on Craigslist looking for a bedroom in a shared house or apartment for $300 or less, and on my ad I mentioned, "Please no phone calls, only text or email," because I find being on the phone with someone I haven't had a chance to size up a really uncomfortable situation. I'm just awkward, I guess. Anyway, I got a call from a dude who clearly didn't read the no calls part, which I mentioned because this type of phone call was exactly the reason I don't like to talk to strangers on the phone. At first, he was just pleasant and normal. He told me he had a room available and relevant information like that. We started to talk about when and where we'd meet, and he started going on tangents about random stuff. I'm a combination of too interested in deep conversation and too awkward to end the call when it started to get weird. So this call went on for 2 hours, and we talked about the meaning of life and all kinds of weird shit. Honestly, this should have been the red flag, and I shouldn't have met him. And of course, I also should have grown a pair and told him I needed to leave. So he wants me to meet him at this place and show me the room. I've since learned that you should really insist on meeting in public first. I got to his neighborhood, and it was run down on a level that made the ghetto I grew up in look nice. Saggy front porches, hot cracked concrete, sad people with old beat-up Lincolns. You get the picture. This house blended right in. The yard was seriously overgrown, and the front door didn't work. So I went around the back, and just looking at the guy standing in the doorway and seeing the kitchen behind him was enough to make me realize I really just wanted to leave. No way in hell. The guy in the doorway was a man with a sort of clown-style afro. He was leaning on a cane on his right side. His eyes looked crazy, and the house smelled musty from 10 feet away. Again, I'm a coward, so instead of trusting my gut, I go inside, and I'm polite, thinking, it'll be okay. It'll be over in 20 minutes and I can just get the fuck out. I don't know what made me think this man, who had a 2-hour conversation with me on the phone about life and philosophy, would let me get away that easy. He took me up a flight of creaky steps into a small bedroom with no door and a mattress on the floor. I thought no way in hell would I live with a 40-something man. I was 19 and female, and no door on my bedroom. But it was a moot point because my mind was made up before I even saw the room. I wouldn't have lived there for free, let alone $200 a month. Things got weird. He tried to hold me hostage with conversation again. I think he was lonely. He talked about how some of his family were millionaires. He might have been delusional because the whole story seemed made up. Then he told me about an 18-year-old girl that has also checked out the room and tried to fuck him, and told me about how his mom hated white people. He was black and I was white, and it sounded like he sympathized with her. Obviously, that was super uncomfortable. Eventually, I was able to break conversation and plucked up the courage to make up an excuse to leave. I was never so happy to leave a place in my life. I don't know that he was necessarily a rapist or anything, but this guy really gave me the fucking creeps. I know this one's not nearly as creepy as the one I posted last week, but I was just reminded of this and thought it would be worth sharing. My friend Kayla and I are both girls, and we're 13 to 12 years old, I think, but we were regularly mistaken for 17 or 18-year-olds. By this point in our lives, we'd been hit on by teenagers and full-grown men assuming we were older a number of times. Anyways, we both took Irish step dancing classes, and our class got to be part of a St. Patrick's Day parade. Our dresses had no pockets to hold my cell phone, so I told my mom to meet us where the parade ended, hoping she'd be able to figure out where that was, because nobody had told us the parade route. Well, the parade ends and my mom is nowhere in sight. Assuming she's waiting in the car in one of the huge parking lots, the dirt lot kinds they have at the big events like these, where you get directed to a certain area to park. We go wandering amongst the cars, hoping to spot her. Halfway through the first lot, we spot a group of clowns behind us in the distance, walking our general direction. Kayla was absolutely terrified of clowns, so she immediately crouched down in between the front ends of two parked cars that were facing each other, not wanting to look at them and not wanting them to see her. I quickly kneeled down too, because I feel like an idiot, and we just sat there, waiting silently, staring at the ground, until enough time had passed that they'd be out of sight. After a few minutes, I suddenly get a weird feeling and turn around, only to see that one of the clowns, a youngish man dressed like a hobo, is standing right behind me, leaning over to get a better look at us. And the rest were a ways away at this point. We both kind of scream and jump up, and I immediately whip around to make sure there's not another one on the other side, completely trapping us. But there wasn't, thank God. Not knowing how long he had been standing there looking at us, but hoping he had just walked up, I made some bullshit excuse for why we were down there. Like, I guess that quarter must have rolled further than we thought, Kayla. I think it's gone for good. And then looked at the man and said, "Heh, we were just looking for the change she dropped." I'm sure it wasn't very convincing, but the weird thing is, this guy never said a word. He never actually asked what we were doing down there, and didn't apologize for scaring us or anything. He just stared at us silently. I like to think that the look on his face was either just confusion or non-malicious amusement, like, I know exactly why you were hiding, but I think it's kind of funny that this is freaking out your friend. But it was pretty much impossible to tell his actual expression, because of the fake smile painted on his face, which is exactly why clowns are so disturbing in the first place. Not wanting to stick around and deal with him any longer, I grabbed Kayla's arm and quickly dragged her in the other direction, since she was still staring at him in horror. We found my mom in the next parking lot, and she thought the story was kind of funny because Kayla always overreacted when she thought things were creepy. Honestly, the dude probably just saw us ducking down and wanted to know why we never came back up, or he could tell we were scared and told his friends, "Hey, watch this, I'm gonna go scare the bejesus out of these girls," since we didn't actually look like children. I'm thinking my friend's fear was just contagious, but I can't deny that I was terrified when I turned around and saw him standing so close. Because the funny thing is, I never even heard him walking. Hey guys, what's up? It's Blue Spooky here as always. I just wanted to thank you guys for watching, especially if you made it to the end of the video here. We're coming up on 3,000 subscribers pretty fast, which is pretty awesome. At 3,000 subscribers, I'm thinking I'm going to do a little Q&A special. So if you guys want to leave any constructive criticism in the comments, or if you have any questions you'd like to ask me, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'll also be making an update video specifically for people to ask questions too, so if you don't comment on this video, there'll be a chance for you to comment on that one. As always, links to my social media will be in the description below. That's my Twitter, Facebook, and email. If you guys have any stories you'd like me to read, or if you have any stories you'd like to send in, please send a message to any of those links. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.